Hello, it's just past midnight on March 1st, and I can't sleep, so I thought I'd film my March TBR. And I have no idea where my phone is with my TBR on it. And before we get into my main TBR, as usual, I'll start with um, the book I'm currently reading, which is A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. I am 35 pages into this. I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure if I'm going to DNF it or not. Like, on one hand, I find it very interesting, but I find it enjoyable. Anyways, so this is following this guy. We start from when he's a very little kid. I'm still at the beginning, so he's 11. It says in the back that we follow his childhood and youth, so I don't know if it's going to end when he's early 20s, when he's a teenager, I'm not sure. Anyways, then I have two main goals for March in my reading, and one is to go back into reading short stories, and one is to really focus on reading series or reading from authors that I've read other books from and I want to read more from them. So for short stories, I plan to read, hopefully with God's help, Four Short Stories by Ella Montgomery. Then, here are all the other books that I have on my TBR. So, I read these past few months, I read the first three books in the Dalemark Quartet. So I plan to read the last one, which is The Crown of Dalemark by Diana Wynne Jones. I honestly don't know what this is about. It wouldn't be spoilers to tell you because Diana Wynne Jones's books don't, even though they're in series, they don't, each book has like its own individual plot. Though I do think in this series it is, well, no, I don't think you need to read the books. It's just fun to know. Like, I feel like when I read this last book and I could go back and reread them and I would know more, and and just fun to have that extra knowledge. Um, but yeah, this is something's going to happen in it, in this continent called Dalemark. Um, then I also want to read Murder on the Disoriented Express by Emily Lloyd Jones and Deceptive by Emily Lloyd Jones. These are numbers 1.5 and 2 in a duology, I guess. So I read Elusive, which is the first in this series, like 2 months ago in January. This is a series about a world where superheroes are not common, but there are superheroes, and they have to work for the government. So obviously, our main character does not work for the government, and she is a criminal because of that. And but she's also a criminal because she's a thief. I found it was a very fun book with no unnecessary romance. Though I did find my suspension of disbelief of how this world worked. I found it very hard to do my suspension of disbelief, but when I wasn't paying attention to that, I had fun. Then another two I want to read, which will also finish the series, are The Lost Scrolls Fire and The Lost Scrolls Air. I read The Lost Scrolls Water and The Lost Scrolls Earth uh, last year in like June, July, or maybe even July, August. And they are just basically kind of like going over plots of episodes from Avatar: The Last Airbender that take place in each of these nations, and giving us some more information. They're just really fun, cute additions. If like you like the book, if you like the series, I would never buy them. I'm getting them from the library, but they're so fun. I love getting more information on the nations. Then I also want to read two Kitty Kazoo books, Game and Witch Switch, obviously both by Nancy Krulik. The Kitty Kazoo Switcheroo series is a series where we have our main character, Kitty, whose nickname is Kitty Kazoo, and she has a terrible day one day in third grade. She just an absolutely terrible day, and she wishes that she could be anybody but herself. Unfortunately, her wish comes true, and in every book, a magic wind comes and turns her into anyone but herself. And it could be anything from a fish to her best friend. Then I also want to read Winds of Fate by Mercedes Lackey. This is technically the first in a series, but it's also a continuation of different series because in order to read this trilogy, the Mage Wind trilogy, this is the first in the Mage Wind trilogy, you have to read like two other series in one standalone. So it's also a continuation. I did read this once, but I didn't really understand it because I was missing two of the series. I didn't know that I had read one of the series in the standalone, but I hadn't read two of the series, and I hadn't realized that I needed to read them. So this will be a reread for me, and hopefully I'll actually understand it this time. And then I want to read Batman number 484, Batman number 485, Batman number 486. These are I a few years back I someone gave me a comic that was part of the Nightfall series, the Nightfall arc of Batman, and I really liked it. But I want to read it all in order, and they're also like precursors to the Nightfall series that like you have to read to understand the Nightfall series. So we begin from Batman number 484. I haven't not read Batman number 1 to 483. We're starting from Batman 484. And lastly, I want to read Summer Lost by Ali Condi. And lastly, I want to read another book that's the first in the series, and this is actually really first in the series, but it is by Nancy Krulik, who I've liked her other books, including the Kitty Kazoo series, obviously. And it's I Want My Mummy. So this is kind of, I think it seems to be kind of like Magic School Bus inspired, where you have this teacher who takes the kids in her class on crazy field trips. This is the first one in the series, and she takes them to Egypt.